Can you just talk a little bit about your business model and how that came to be?
Yeah. And I'm actually going to start back a little bit on how the business model came to be, if I could, because it's been a bit of an evolution. So when I walked out of that wonderful pharmaceutical job, I said to myself, well, what am I going to be when I grow up? So I decided to be a solopreneur. I hung up my shingle. I played in that field for a while. That was great. But I realized with the pandemic that ultimately hit by bus theory, I get hit by a bus. I'm a single mom. What happens to my daughter? Right? That's not a very scalable thing. In succession planning, I would coach my own clients to do other things. So it's time to eat my own cooking. The first thing I did was I looked around for a business model that allowed me to scale, that was still planning to keep the business small in terms of, well, I really only want to take on, as a fractional client at that point, I could only take on 3 clients. So I said, great. I have 3 clients, but how do I make that 6 clients?
So just to be clear, you were the first fractional COO for your own company, Scaling Management Consulting Group.
Correct.
Cool. And based on, kind of hourly workload and spending time with your daughter and wanting to have a life, and run, which I know running has not been available for you because you broke your little toe. But to do all the things, you could take on about 3 clients and be their fractional COO.
Correct. Because I wanted to continue to add value to the rest of the community. So I was doing postings and YouTube videos and all those other things, and that would take time. And then I had to be mom. And so I really felt that it was a matter of 3 clients, 4 maximum. If it was a smaller client that I could add in, that was maybe only another half day. Because even though we say it's only going to be a day a week, for example, it's never a day a week. Right. We spend all sorts of time on the weekends, or we do things before or after other stuff. So it was never that. So I looked around for a business model, and I actually looked at the bookkeepers and the CPAs in particular. So often CPA firms will have bookkeepers in-house because bookkeepers are junior, and then the CPAs only come in to give you advice, be more strategic and less tactical. And I said, that's an interesting model. Let's test it out. So I brought in my first operations manager. Worked beautifully. So I went from 3 clients to 6 clients, and I could take on those extra pieces. Not a problem. I made a boo-boo in doing 6 clients because each one still got a day.
Right.
So it was a little bit of a problem by the time the end of the week hit, but everybody got fulfilled. And so that was the business model that you've got, right? You've got where a COO comes in essentially for a day a week, give or take the hours, right? It ranges. Whether there's more or less to do. And you've got an operations manager that's there between 15 and 20 hours a week.
Yep.
And that's the model that we've got for Scott. And that was, back then it wasn't 10,000, but when I have to pay other people, now it was $10,000 a month.
Right.
Because the way the business model works is it's almost an 80-20 rule. It's not quite, there's a little bit of a percentage point difference there, but it's about an 80-20 rule. So 80% goes to the contractors and 20% stays for the overhead.
Perfect. So right, you sourced Bob, you contract him out to me. You sourced Ashley, you contract her out to me. The company, Scaling Management Consulting Group, keeps about 20% profit margin, which is awesome because I have to imagine you have little overhead other than headhunting for these people. And then they get about 80%. And I even asked Bob, I was like, hey man, I kind of guessed as much. I was like, excuse me. I'm guessing I'm paying about $5,000 or $6,000 for you. I was guessing he's probably getting about 70% of that money. I'm like, Bob, you're old, you're quasi-retired. Why are you doing this? And he's like, well, I'm doing this for 3 reasons. One, I was part of a couple big tech companies where a couple times I was months away from having FU big boy money. And either the company failed or something didn't work out in a merger or whatever. So he's like, I've got retirement, I've got good money, but I don't have FU money. So every month that I don't have to withdraw out of my retirement is like a win and more money I can leave to my kids. And he would say that publicly because he said it in front of 10 other people. That's why I'm comfortable saying it here on this call. And then he said, number 2, I've just have this knowledge base that I feel inclined to get out to people, and I just want to add value where I can to a younger generation. And number 3, with this income, I get to play private golf courses in my retirement instead of public golf courses in my retirement. I'm like, these are all very good reasons. And then he's made many jokes about how he's keeping me from having a heart attack and I'm keeping him from getting Alzheimer's. So it's kind of like a perfect mesh. But that totally made sense to me, right? And then I get this awesome quality in a CEO COO and an operations manager. So that's awesome for your business model. How are you sourcing these people? Because like, you know, you just don't come across every day people that can be COOs in a multitude of other businesses or amazing operations managers. So how are you sourcing these people for your business now that you're scaling?
Great question. And so I found most of them actually because I was an EOS implementer at one point in time. I was trained for that. And so I have a community of implementers. A lot of implementers also tend to be integrators. And so speaking to people, the first round of people that came in, like Bob was one of those rounds. They're from that community. And then you know what happens, Scott? And this is what the beauty of the model that I've got now. But Bob and those other first round people, they are loving it here. They adore it. We haven't had people leave. They said, yeah, we just want to stay. We want to have some fun. And we want to, because you guys let us pick and choose our clients. Like, Scott, if Bob had come off that call and said, I don't want to talk to Scott ever again,
right,
you wouldn't have having Bob on your team.
Which, by the way, I have the type of personality that there are some people you could have put on that call where they're like, dude, I am not working with this ball of fire. Like, no chance. He cusses too much. He's got too many ideas. Like, this is not my wheelhouse. But Bob was willing to take on the challenge.
He was, and we thank Bob greatly.
Yes, every day.